Hello, dear viewers. Today we will delve into the thorny topic of U.S. economic policy toward China and examine the consequences of the imposed tariffs. The U.S. administration's decision to impose 100% tariffs on China is not only a catastrophic miscalculation, but also a blatant display of economic illiteracy and political arrogance. By sanctioning China, the government is effectively declaring war on its own economy, plunging millions of Americans into financial distress and threatening the global economic balance. These tariffs are a destructive force poised to unleash an unprecedented wave of inflation that will erode the purchasing power of ordinary citizens and bring countless businesses to the brink of collapse. It is a short-sighted, politically motivated move that sacrifices the economic well-being of the nation on the altar of nationalist fervor. It begs the reasonable question: who really benefits from this chaos? Certainly not the American people. Stay tuned to the end as we dissect the disastrous consequences of these tariffs and the misguided policy decisions that spawned them. In our view, the U.S. would be better served by an open trade policy so critical to its economic success. We also encourage the U.S. and China to work together on a solution that addresses the root causes of the trade differences between the two countries. And more broadly, we encourage all nations to resolve differences through multilateral agreements. Tariffs on Chinese goods will lead to inflation and could slow U.S. GDP growth in the near term. Tech global analysts note that this potentially delays a Fed discount rate cut as price deflation slows. While tariffs favor long-term growth, they also create market inefficiencies that keep prices from falling. CP experts warn that U.S. attempts to counterbalance Chinese imports could, conversely, destabilize the country's inflation fight. Quoting Global Intelligence, in fact, Washington's adoption of tariffs on foreign goods risks delaying long-awaited interest rate cuts if it forces the Fed to keep tight policy in place longer. The rating agency adds, tariff policies have again attracted attention in recent months. U.S. import tariffs have risen in recent months as the presidential election approaches. Both candidates have embraced protectionism to protect domestic industry. Former President Donald Trump has even promised a 10% universal tariff on all U.S. imports. If he wins, however, he plans a 60% tariff for China. As a reminder, don't forget to put a like under this video. YouTube recently started severely restricting my videos due to bots, so your like will help the video a lot in moving up the algorithms. Economists warn that the new tariffs, like protectionist measures in general, could have unintended consequences. Rising prices and a higher likelihood of a prolonged Fed interest rate hike will complicate the regulator's decisions. While the Fed is expected to cut the benchmark rate slightly this year from its current decade's high, tariffs will inevitably have an impact on rising prices. Biden's proposed import tariffs on China would affect only a fraction of industries so far, taking effect between 2024 and 2026. Out of 14 categories, 5 are affected, which accounted for only 3% of Chinese imports into the U.S. in 2022. But for domestic manufacturing, the effect is clear. The tariffs will reduce the pressure due to low prices of Chinese competitors. In that sense, protectionism could spur long-term economic growth, but it would first provoke market inefficiencies and make it harder to fight inflation. Global supply chains have developed in today's way to exploit production efficiencies. This supports higher global and U.S. GDP and low prices compared to levels without globalization and trade, said Ben Herzog, senior U.S. economist at SAF. The agency estimates these tariffs could slow growth in the U.S. economy. In 2023, U.S. GDP is expected to grow by 2.4%, just below last year's 2.5%. Other analysts have raised the same concerns, especially if Trump's comprehensive tariffs go into effect. By one estimate, his proposal could cost U.S. consumers $500 billion a year. Such economic projections paint a rather bleak picture of the immediate impact of tariff policy. Potential long-term benefits, such as boosting domestic industry and reducing dependence on foreign goods, come with significant short-term sacrifices. The increased cost of goods to consumers, along with the possible postponement of interest rate cuts, could lead to a period of economic turbulence. This scenario illustrates the difficult balance that policymakers have to strike between protecting domestic interests and maintaining overall economic stability. The US-China trade relationship is a critical component of the global economy. Any disruptions in this relationship not only affect the two countries directly, but also cause a tsunami in global markets. U.S. strategic maneuvers to impose tariffs are often seen as attempts to curb China's growing economic influence. However, these U.S. actions risk exacerbating friction with China and could trigger retaliation from China, further complicating the economic landscape. The impact on specific sectors within the U.S. also requires close scrutiny. Sectors that rely heavily on imports from China, such as technology and manufacturing, are likely to face significant challenges. Companies will have to restructure supply chains, find alternative suppliers, or accept higher costs, all of which could affect their competitiveness and profitability. At the same time, industries that compete directly with Chinese imports may get some relief from reduced competition. For the U.S., a tougher approach offers an opportunity to create a new growth-oriented economy. As the U.S. presidential election approaches, the discourse around tariffs and trade policy is likely to intensify. Candidates will continue to advocate for measures that they believe will protect American jobs and industries. But the economic realities of such policies will remain a critical point of debate. The outcome of the election will undoubtedly determine the future course of U.S. trade policy and its impact on the economy. In the broader context of international trade, U.S. actions set a precedent for other countries. As the world's largest economy, the U.S. has a huge influence on global trade policy. Other countries may respond to U.S. tariffs with protectionist measures of their own, leading to a potential increase in trade barriers around the world. This could lead to a less connected global economy with all the implications for economic growth and stability. The role of international organizations such as the World Trade Organization also becomes critical in this context. These organizations are meant to promote free trade and resolve trade disputes. The increasing use of tariffs and other trade barriers challenges the principles of free trade and forces these organizations to adapt to the changing trade landscape. The effectiveness of international organizations in managing these challenges will be an important factor in the future. The economic and geopolitical dimensions of tariff policy are closely intertwined and will be key factors in determining the future of global trade relations. U.S. actions to impose tariffs on China reflect broader policy objectives beyond purely economic considerations. These policies also aim to contain China's growing influence and assert U.S. dominance in the global economic order. The impact of tariffs on consumers should also not be overlooked. Higher duties on imported goods could lead to higher prices on a wide range of products, from everyday items to large purchases. This will reduce consumers' purchasing power and negatively affect their standard of living. The burden of higher prices is felt most acutely by low-income households, exacerbating existing economic inequalities. The possibility of higher interest rates as a result of tariff policy adds another layer of complexity. Higher rates will increase the cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses, which could slow economic growth and potentially lead to recession. The Fed faces the difficult task of balancing the need to control inflation and maintain economic growth. The long-term effects of tariff policy on the U.S. economy will depend on a variety of factors, including the duration and magnitude of tariffs, the reaction of other countries, and the overall health of the global economy. Policymakers need to be prepared to adjust their strategies as circumstances change and new information becomes available. The U.S.-China trade relationship is a critical component of the global economy. U.S. actions to impose tariffs on China reflect broader strategic goals beyond pure economics. These policies also seek to contain China's growing influence and assert U.S. dominance in the global economic order. However, the complexities and potential unintended consequences of such actions require careful consideration and strategic planning. The debate around tariffs and trade policy is as much an economic issue as it is a political one. It involves weighing the immediate benefits of protecting domestic industries against the long-term consequences for the broader economy and international relations. Policymakers need to take these complexities into account and make decisions that balance different interests. Thank you for your attention. If you liked this video, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support is very motivating for us to create new interesting content. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. I wish you prosperity and well-being.